Hi, Scott from HobbyKing with the Bixler 2. New version, without being a new version, which was the whole idea at the end of the day. First thing is the dimensions. Obviously, it's a little bit bigger. We have a longer span, we've gone from 14 to 1500mm. The fuselage naturally is a little bit longer. There's a good reason for this, which I'll come to in a second. Now, it comes currently as an ARF version. That means that the servos are installed, it means the motor's installed. Another thing I'll come back to in a second. But it does require an ESC and obviously your radio for the new guys, for the beginners. So, what was it all about? Well, basically we wanted to make the model more FPV friendly for a start. We certainly didn't want to detract from any of the features that make it so popular with new flyers and a lot of experienced flyers. And I'm quite pleased to say that that's exactly what we've really achieved with it. So looking around it, like I said, the very obvious thing to begin with is the larger span. But you will also notice here are some hinges, and this is for flaps. Now, we have not pre-installed the servos to the flaps, and there's a very good reason for this. And that is that the flaps are predominantly for FPV use, if I'm absolutely truthful. It's for people carrying quite heavy payloads. That's when the flaps themselves will really come in. Like the original one, if you're simply flying it around for fun on, say, a 2200 mAh pack, then at the end of the day, really you don't need to bother with them. So they are as standard. The servo pockets are in there. Ours has actually got the servos in at the minute. This is a test model, and they are blanked here, so they're ready to go. And even the horns and various other bits and pieces to install them also come with the model. But if you're not using a computer radio, if you're using a very basic radio, you must order a servo reverser at the same time. Okay. Now, I did mention the pack at 2200. Obviously, the original Bixler was recommended for 1300, and then people are tending to squeeze in larger batteries. Bearing this in mind, and bearing in mind FPV use, then obviously we've made the nose long. This is partly why it's longer dimensionally this way. It's to basically make getting a bigger battery or standard battery and FPV equipment in there much easier without also upsetting the centre of gravity. Canopy is, as before, very simple. As you can see, this is a test model, so it's got everything in there at the moment. This is ready to go. This is one of the ones that we've been hooning around. So 2200 is sort of sat there. There's plenty of room for it to move fore and aft to compensate CG wise for, like I said, FPV equipment or whatever. Or obviously it means you can maybe even go with, I know some people are running really big packs on the old one. Excuse me, this one should be far more capable in that respect. So the next thing is the motor. Now the original was basically a higher kV than this, much higher kV than this, and ran a 5x5 prop, which is kind of very standard a lot of the time on this sort of thing. Quite honestly, the basic problem with it is firstly and foremost, for my money, the throttle response is not terribly linear when you've got very small props because they're not terribly efficient, and obviously they don't fly that nicely as a result. They certainly climb well for glide, which is good, but when you want to fly on throttle, they're a bit on and off. Not terribly efficient. So what we've done is we're going to lower kV. We've altered the boom so that it will accept a larger prop. So you've gone from like 5.5 now to 7x5, which I think at lower throttle settings will definitely make the model more nicer to fly. Then we get to the back end. Now, the same thing again. What's happened here is that these control surfaces have been hinged. They're not relying just purely on the foam for hinging. What we've actually got now are proper hinges for the elevator and the rudder, which should basically make it more reliable. The aileron needs to stay in this configuration. It's important that it stays in this configuration. But in terms of the tail, this very definitely makes it a lot more reliable. Takes a few knocks, particularly hanger rashes stuff, which is when a lot of the time these type of foam hinges tend to start to separate, and then you end up hinging it yourself anyway. So job done. The wing is removable. It basically uses 2 screws here, so that's quite different from the old one. We have this nice plastic skid underneath. As you can see here, then there's carbon fibre all over the place. We've got a big carbon fibre spar in the wing, carbon fibre here, and so on and so forth. So it's all there, basically, and it is an improvement. I think there's no doubt about it. There's nothing wrong with the way the other one flies, but this one is just a little different, but exactly the same, as you'll see from the flight footage.